Hello guys, welcome back to Tool Craze. My name is Javier, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at Ryobi's latest cordless 18V inflator. This is the P747 model. This is an inflator slash deflator. And what's nice about this unit is that, as its name suggests, you can inflate basically just about anything. On the right side you can inflate tires using the high pressure side with the built-in hose, and on the left side is the high volume low pressure side. It's basically a blower motor running a blower, just blowing out air, and this is for basically anything that's high volume low pressure, such as you can see here, it's got an air mattress, a beach ball, inflatable sofa chairs, stuff like that. On the right side it uses a compressor instead of just simply a motor. And you can inflate vehicle tires, you can inflate sports balls, football, soccer balls, anything of that sort. And what's nice about this unit is that it has a nice little display on it. We'll take a look at it right here. So here's the on-off power button, and you can also select between the two modes. Once you have it on with the power button, you can select between these two sides. You have your high volume side, and you can see your arrow. I know it's kind of hard to see in the camera. And then on the, so this is the left side, this is the right side. On the right side has your high pressure side. You can toggle between the two. And what's nice about the display is that when you actually connect it to your vehicle's tire, using the high pressure side, which is the more technologically advanced side on this unit, is that the display lets you see your current air pressure in PSI. So here I have it connected to my vehicle's tire. I had just inflated it just a couple of days ago, set it to 33. Right now it's showing me 32.5. So that's pretty neat. You can also, when you want to inflate, you can also select your desired PSI, and you can use that using the plus and the minus buttons on here. You can choose, if you just press once, it moves it 1 PSI in 1 PSI increments. If you hold it, you'll actually move fast in 5 PSI increments. And what's neat about this is that once you set your desired PSI, all you have to do is press start, and it will automatically fill it. You can basically just set it and forget it. You can walk away, let this thing do its job, and once it reaches that, your desired PSI will actually automatically shut off. So that's one of the neat things about this unit. And also on the right side, or actually the left side, the high volume side, you got your little hose right here. You can connect it to the top and it locks on. And this is how you would connect it to inflate your air mattress using this side. And as the name suggests, it's also a deflator. If you want to deflate something fast, you connect it to its side. There's a little port right here. You connect that to your air mattress or whatever. And when you turn this thing on, you set it to the high volume side, it runs, and the motor will actually use this side as a vacuum. So this is basically a blower to inflate. This is pulling air in, just like a vacuum would, and you're going to be able to deflate things a lot faster than just letting them deflate on their own. And you can, as you can see on both sides, it has storage for both of its hoses. It's a little bit complicated, but let's see. There's one way to install it. You have to put this on this side right here. It wraps around, and you have that right there. So it's pretty simple to store it. It doesn't exactly stay on there like it should, but it does for the most part. And if you actually remember, just a few years back, this is actually the newer model of one that I reviewed not too long ago, just a few years back. And this is the original unit. This is the P731 unit. Basically has they both have the same features. You can inflate tires with the compressor side. You can inflate inflatables such as air mattresses on the left side. So right side, left side. And you can also deflate things just the same way as you would with this one, with the intake port right there. It also has an LCD display. They're both backlit, so if you were to be using these at nighttime when it's dark, they're both backlit. And you can also choose your desired PSI and set it and forget it on both of these units. There are a few differences. As you can see, the biggest difference is just the cosmetics of the new model. You can see it looks a lot different. It's slimmed down. It is taller, as opposed to this one. It's just pretty bulky. I do like that the old unit has the LCD display facing upwards, so when you're using this upright you can be able to see it very easily, as opposed to this one. When you're using this in practice, you may be kneeling down, but this is still below you. You're not facing the LCD display. So what they did here is that this is actually designed to lay flat on its back when you use it, and that's how you're supposed to use it when you're inflating vehicle tires. And in this orientation, you can actually see the display just fine. So that's one of the biggest differences between these two. This one doesn't turn back, as it doesn't need to. One of the things I didn't like about this unit was, if you look underneath, it has these very cheap, flimsy little foam pads. I mean, they do just fine. However, as you can see, eventually one of these came off, and it wasn't even that much long after I had it, probably within the first year. So ever since then, this thing just kind of wobbles because that little pad fell off. And it's unfortunate that it fell off and I didn't even notice it. Otherwise, I would have just glued it back on. With the new model, you really don't have to worry about that because it's got built-in little rubber pads. They're built into it. They don't screw on. They're not glued on. They're built into it. So you don't have to worry about them coming off. And they're actually pretty sturdy, so they should hold up pretty well with regular use. Another big difference is that they kind of streamlined the whole menu system right here. As you can see, on this unit, if you wanted to use the high volume port, or any of the modes, if you want to use a high volume or the high pressure, you have this little toggle switch, and when it's in the center, both of these modes are off. If you press to the right, then you can use the compressor. If you press to the left, then you can use the high volume side, and it's basically a rocker switch. On this unit, they all integrated the power on, off, and the modes into just this one single button, and it's very easy to use. You just tap it to turn it on. When it's on, it's automatically set to the high pressure side to fill up tires, and if you just press it, you can toggle it between the two modes, which will take you to the high volume, and it shows you with a little arrow facing left or right. You can toggle between the two sides, and to turn it off, you just hold it for a few seconds and it shuts off. That's one of the biggest differences. Another biggest difference is that with the hose connector for your tires is different. The hose is still the same. It still is a braided hose, but as you can see, the connector tips are different. So this is using that old clamp-on tire connector, as opposed to this one is using a nice screw-on connection. And I actually prefer this because you can't screw this up. It basically goes on your tire and you screw it in and you're done. With this one, it's a little bit, it's still simple to use. You push it in, and as long as you push it in correctly, then you can tighten it. But as you use it, you do lose a substantial amount of air when you push it in, and when you remove it, it does get a little bit awkward. And when you do remove this, you have to make sure to unlock it and pull it out real quick, otherwise you lose a lot of air. As opposed to this one, you don't lose as much, and it's a lot easier to use. So those are some of the differences. And also with the high volume hose, if you remember my review on the older unit, this one was actually, this hose is extremely flimsy. I mean, you can barely looking at it and it crushes. So that's one of the things that they did with the newer model, was that they made it just a little bit stiffer, a little bit sturdier. It's still flimsy, as you can see. It's still very easy to crush if you wanted to, but they did beef it up a little bit. And as far as performance goes, they're both very similar at inflation speeds when it comes to using the high pressure side. So I ran a little easy test. I used a dolly tire, which inflates to rated 30 psi, and I did from 0, basically empty, to full, to the 30 psi on both of these units. And they're both exactly the same speeds. They both did it in 21 seconds. So no differences there. There was a few differences though. Was that that was actually with volume. The older unit is a little bit more quiet. The new model is a little bit louder. So when I did that test, I used a decibel meter to measure the volume at exactly 2 feet on both of these units. And so the new model ran between 92 to 94 decibels loudness, and the older model was at a consistent 88 decibels, so it was a little bit quieter. I remember that this unit does over-inflate when you're inflating with tires. Let's say you set like my vehicle's tire, let's say I set it to 33 psi. This will actually inflate to 33, then we'll go over 33.5, and then it'll keep inflating. Once it reaches 1 psi over at 34 psi, it will stop inflating. As opposed to the newer unit, whatever psi I set it to, if I set it to 33, it will stop exactly at 33. I'm not exactly sure why they did that. I do have an idea why, and that could possibly be because the hose that they use, this one does lose a little bit more air when you disconnect it, so that's probably why it goes over 1, as opposed to this hose doesn't really lose very much. As you can see, I topped this thing up just a couple of days ago at 33 psi, and it's still at 32.5, so you don't really lose much. That's probably why it stops exactly at 33 psi. And the psi range on both of these units runs from 2 to 150 psi on both of these units. What's also interesting is that I also have the Dewalt model on hand, which I was able to compare both of these. And although this is a nicely featured unit, it does not have all the features as the Dewalt have. There's 2 critical features that this one does not have. So this, basically both of these Ryobi models, they're battery only models, and all they can do is inflate and deflate. That's about it, which is all you need to do. All you need for if you just want to inflate your tires. What this model does have is, besides being able to run on battery power, you can also, it has cables to plug it into your vehicle's 12-volt DC port, the little cigarette port. So if you wanted to, you don't even need a battery. You can just use this without a battery. Just pop that in your vehicle's trunk and you have an inflator ready to go at all times. What this one also has, that the Ryobi doesn't, is a built-in light. Now that may not seem like much, but when I did have, as I've had this model before, there was one time that I did need to change my tire, and this, of course, that happened at nighttime, so that LED light did come in handy at nighttime. It was nice that I did have a battery on hand, but if I had forgot to bring it, that would have been no issue, because this has plug-in power for your vehicle. And those are basically the main differences. There's also little cosmetic differences. The build quality is better on the Dewalt. We were talking about the high pressure hose. That's a bit flimsy. They did improve on it with this model, with the newer model. However, the Dewalt high pressure hose is a lot more sturdier. You can still see the difference. You can still crush it if you press hard enough, but it's a lot harder than this is harder to do so, and this is a lot easier to crush it. Doesn't really take away from it. This will still last you. I mean, I still have the old unit from several years and it's still holding up. You can crush it and it still works. The tire hose, the inflation hose, does it is a lot nicer. It's a fully rubber hose as opposed to just the braided cable that's on this one. I mean, this isn't a bad cable, nothing to knock anything away from this one, but I mean, just from a feel standpoint, this one feels nicer. If you look at the hose connector, they're both screw on, except this is all brass. At least I believe this is brass. This is all solid metal right here. This appears to have brass, but it's in the center and it's got a plastic sleeve on the outside. Just better fit and finish on the Dewalt. I do like that the hose has a nice little slot to grip the hose a lot easier. And as far as performance between these two, the Dewalt is a little bit stronger. Going back to that Dolly 30 PSI test from 0 to full, running under the same test, this was the Dewalt was just a little bit faster. This was 21 seconds to do so, and this was 18 seconds to do the same thing. So just a little bit faster. Is it a big difference? No, not really. But this is something worth noting. However, what this is, at least in my opinion, a lot better than the Dewalt is in value. The price for this is actually less than half than this unit. At the time of this video, the Dewalt is $109, as opposed to this is exactly this is $50, $49.97 I believe. So it's less than half. You're not getting, this is battery only and it doesn't have a light, but most of you guys watching this video either already have one Ryobi battery or you have several of them, so it's not really a big deal, at least in my opinion. So that's about it. There's another difference that the Dewalt has. They both have backlit LCD displays, and this one does show you your PSI when you plug it into your tire, the PSI that the tire has, and then you can also select your desired PSI and it'll automatically inflate and shut off when it gets there. The Dewalt does the same exact thing, except that theirs, they actually split up their those two functions into two different displays. So we'll kind of get to look at these. It's probably hard to see on the camera, so I'll take another image of this and I'll put that on screen. So basically, the left display shows you the current PSI that your tire is set to, and we'll try that out right here. So this is what is it? This is showing at 33.6, and then the right display is your display to choose whatever PSI you want it to be set to. So it's 33.6. Let's say I want to set it to 40. I can set that here. I just press start, and it'll start inflating. And what's also neat about the split window is that it shows you kind of like a half dial, and this is your rate of completion. So as you can see, I set it to 40 PSI. Since it's 33.6, that kind of looks like it's about 3/4 of the way full to 40 PSI. So it's just going to display how far along you are. It's a nice little display. So if you're halfway inflating, it'll show halfway through this little dial. If you're a third, it'll show you a third. If you're full, it'll show you full. And the more it inflates, the closer it gets to the very end once it reaches that PSI. But just keep in mind, I do like that the Ryobi is a lot cheaper. It's less than half, so something to look forward to. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Give this video a big thumbs up, and by liking this video, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave those in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe, and also check out the toolcraze.net website, where I have daily content on there every weekday. I don't just have reviews on the website, but I do have daily tool news. So if you want to hear about the latest tool news, if you want to learn about these newest Ryobi products before they come out and get announced and get reviewed, you'll see them on the website a lot sooner than you'll see them basically anywhere else. So don't forget to check that out. And I also do have tool deals every so often. So thank you guys for stopping by, and I'll see you guys in the next video.